Hello.
Hi.
Just making sure. Always eyes. Welcome back. And hopefully y'all are boundary gurus after all those 2 episodes. That was a lot of fun going through that and kind of having a two-parter with you guys.
Our first two-parter.
Our first two-parter. Look at us.
So exciting. We're evolving.
Do you see this like matching sweatsuit thing we got going on today too? Yeah. We just finished with the photo shoot. So very excited, which is why we're also all kind of glammed up. So you're welcome.
We've got some fun pictures and we had a nice little fun time before we sat down to film this. And I will say, Taylor, you're just much better at taking photos than most people I know, including myself.
I'm like, oh, shucks. Thank you.
She is. She just kind of like flows so naturally. And I'm just like this awkward, like side, like, tell me what to do.
I feel like it's having friends that are photographers has definitely made me like know certain things, but I've also been told I move too fucking much. But remember, that's like the theme. I just move a lot.
You know what? I think that's good. I just don't know what to do, so I just kind of sit still.
But see, like they can adjust to your angles. So whenever you sit still,
well, yeah, because they're like, do something else, Maddie.
You do just enough,
I just
Maddie.
want to stay there, and that should be enough.
Just enough. Well, yeah, that's kind of the lowdown of what's happened today. But I bet you're wondering what the hell we're going to be talking about today. We kind of gave you a sneak peek in the last episode of what it's like dating a therapist, being in a relationship with a therapist, being friends with a therapist, and kind of like vice versa for us. But Maddie came up with a cool name for this episode. So drumroll, please.
Am I giving it?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Hold on. Okay. Stop diagnosing me, babe.
There we go.
Oh my God. I've had it. She's asked me 4 or 5 times. What's it called again?
What's this episode called?
And I kept telling her, and then finally she asked me and I forgot. Okay.
Yeah. It was kind of, it's complex. Like we couldn't just be like boundary setting or anything.
Yeah.
It's a complex one, but I thought that was kind of cheeky.
Like, stop diagnosing me, babe. Yeah. Or like if it's your friend, like, babe, stop diagnosing me. Babe.
Quit psychoanalyzing
Chill.
me.
Which I'm sure, if you have a friend or friends that are therapists or psychologists or psychiatrists, I am sure you have been in that situation.
Oh, yeah. I think even me having friends that are therapists, I'm like, what are you thinking about what I'm saying?
Even
right
on this
now?
couch. Yeah. I'm like, is this therapy? Are we talking? What's going on? What are we doing?
You're like, Taylor will be holding me accountable.
Yeah. So this shows up a lot in our world and maybe in yours too.
Oh, yeah. No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah.
But no, as we obviously dive into it, we're going to talk about like different atmospheres and different, obviously, relationship types that we personally are kind of come across and the, I guess, strains. And then also, I think the successes of it too. So I think that with that being said, I feel like the first kind of avenue we can kind of reflect on is friendships, which we'll go into kind of what we kind of talked about last time of, sometimes boundary setting and stuff. But I will say, again, reflecting on what I had said, it was hard. I think that was one of the biggest ones where I know I personally want to show up and want to be there for them. And I think being a therapist, that puts another hat on me of, oh, yes, I want you to talk to me. I want you to, know all that's going on. And you think about it, we kind of gossip already with our friends. We already kind of get all the tea, we get all of that insight already. But I feel like there is an extra layer of it that I do get from people that I don't think normal friendships necessarily talk on. But I'm happy that I do. I'm happy that I foster that, kind of communication. So I will say friendships have always been one that I felt really good about setting boundaries with, at least my therapist self. Because I feel like I ask this question of, am I giving feedback? Do you need a solution? Do you want me to just listen? And it's weird how they're usually like, feedback, just hear me vent, just let me go crazy on a tangent. Because I do ask that, do you want therapist Taylor or do you want friend Taylor right now? Do you want me to enable your behavior? Because sometimes your friends do just want you to say, F that guy with me. And, I don't always naturally come to that. Like, I don't naturally always say like, oh, screw him. You deserve better. Like, I'm usually sometimes the person like, hey, like what happened? Like, what do you think was, so I'm usually that reflective stuff instead of
I'm the same exact way. And like, as you're speaking about it, I think about it all the time because I have this internal battle in my head when somebody is telling me something where I'm like, I see some, I see some things that maybe you're doing as well. Or I'm like, no, that could be, he could be this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
And then I'll say it sometimes. And I just think about me being on the other side and like being upset about something. And then my friend saying, well, did you consider that? No, I didn't consider Maddie because you're my friend and I just want to talk to you. So I relate to that so hard.
Yeah, I started to kind of label it too when I was doing it, like devil's advocate is what I call it. When I was like, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. And, that's me kind of, instead of therapist terms, because no, I don't say that in therapy, but it is my like way of saying it with my friends. Of like, this is me going to say like other side and reflect back what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, I don't want to always do that for my friends. Like I want them to come to me and be able to, be quote unquote toxic for a minute, say outlandish shit and not have me,
Toxic time.
Yeah. Like let's be stupid about it. And I should be able to tap into that. And I think I should be able to get back into that and be like, hey, now serious note.
Yeah.
I think you can have fun with things and, you don't have to take life so seriously all the time. So I'm checking that still.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. It's hard. And I think I talked about this a little bit in the last, part 1 boundaries. I can't remember which one, but I talked about how my own boundaries with all of this knowledge in my head, right? Of the discernment, right? Like we have a level of discernment, right? Because we're trained to, and we learn to look for things. We look at body language, we look at, right? And so some people they don't give me permission to give them this knowledge that I have, right? Yeah, and I don't mean like true. I know these people more than they know themselves. It's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is some people don't want me to challenge that and I've done that before where people are like, whoa, what?
Yeah. They're like, hey, oh my gosh, someone actually was talking to me about this of, like eye contact, that being one thing. Because I know I absolutely suck at eye contact.
Yeah, I do too.
But I remember someone was just like, look at me, like, why do you have a hard time looking at me? And I was like, oh, excuse me. Like, I remember feeling kind of what you're saying, like, I don't actually have to explain that to you.
Yeah.
I was like, I explain that to my partner. I'll explain that to people. Like, it's me in my ADHD brain. Of, like, I gather my thoughts. Like, I have a hard time with sitting right here because I will lose my thought more looking at you than kind of gathering what I need. But that's a me thing, but I remember someone reflecting that back, like, why can't you hold icons? Like
whoa, did I ask you?
I was like, unsolicited feedback.
Which is, I'm very guilty of that. And, we're talking on the terms of like boundaries. You were saying a little bit of setting boundaries with some friends. I feel like my issue is my own boundaries rather than I don't, I need to probably have a few more boundaries with the therapy stuff because I think, I want to kind of like you said, I want my friends and family to have that available. Like if I have this like thing, then I want to share it. But sometimes I think I'm guilty of sharing it a little too hard.
Yeah. And I think it is going to come to those setting them up for success, setting yourself up for success. Like, it's how I talked about, like, what do you need from me right now? Like, what is the version of me? Because I can be multiple versions. I'm not going to quote Taylor Swift right now, but Mirrorball, if you know. But I can be different versions of that. I'm good at that. And it's not going to burn me out because I know I have that capacity. Right. But it helps that relationship flow. Yes. More authentically in the moment of, is this going to be stupid? Because I think my friends try to pull multiple versions out of me all the time. So I think they recognize that too. Yeah. So now that I ask those questions, they'll kind of just tell me straight up, like, I need friend Taylor, or I need you to just get unhinged with me today. Like, so I think they start to.
That's a boundary. Like, like just for an example, everybody, that's a boundary. It doesn't have to sound, it doesn't have to sound intimidating or mean or confrontational. It's just like, hey, which version would you like today? Would you like the therapist me, or would you like the friend me, the toxic me, or the profound me?
Profound. Oh, so many levels to us. And there's obviously too, like, devil's advocate, because, I always like to think kind of bigger picture. There are some things that you can't necessarily shed. So I will say, you were talking about how maybe you talk a lot more,
Yeah.
in those things. I kind of shut down more because
Mm.
I've always been like, I'll just kind of watch and observe, and I won't necessarily give like my advice or my feedback until I'm like given the green light. But sometimes that really does detach me from a moment when I'm just like, hey, some stuff is going on. Like, and I'm, I become more hyper aware, hyper focused of just like observing and just kind of processing, how I'm going to interact, because sometimes it does like pull me back where I'm like, hey, I don't know if I'm gonna
Where I'm gonna go.
where I want to go with this.
Right. We're establishing some protector parts here today, because mine is the opposite. My protector part, and I know we haven't talked about parts, but whatever.
We'll get into that.
You've heard a few parts. We've got our people pleasers. We've got bouncers now.
Parts, protectors.
One of the things that I do when I start to feel out of control is I talk and I therapize.
Okay.
Right. And so even if it's unsolicited, or it makes me feel like I'm in control of a panicky situation. Like if I see a friend, my husband, my kids, my family, if I see somebody struggling, my therapist like hat is immediately placed on, because it makes me feel like I can help.
Yeah.
And while I know that is my intention in my head, it doesn't always look that way to other people.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I've at least kind of learned that about myself and had some insight into, why do I do that? Why do I jump on people when they didn't ask for it?
Yeah.
And I've just kind of come to the conclusion that it makes me feel like I'm protecting my people and that I'm safe in my own body. So parts, baby.
Parts. I agree. And I can't say that I haven't been there before too. Like I talked about, the people pleasing savior complex is a big thing too that comes with our job. And we kind of just have to check in with, like, as therapists, like, we got into this role, and sometimes that does feel like that, because you do have people who are like, help me, like, but you don't want to foster that like codependency or that need. I know we talked about Cartman's triangle, like of that,
love
that
triangle.
rescuer type of thing. So it's kind of staying in tune with that. Like, what is my motivation? I like being needed. I like, this makes me feel wanted. This makes me feel worthy whenever someone needs me.
Right.
And so I think it's just like staying in tune with that. And I think to that point, like maybe that protector of like me pulling back, or me more observing in that time, is maybe me not wanting to step on toes, me avoiding conflict. It could have its levels of when it's like too much, because I've been told I shut down sometimes. I've been told I, compartmentalize. We'll get into all of that. But, it looks those levels for us.
Well, I think this is like a testament to what goes on in our brains in relationships. And it's like, you can see what Taylor does with those things is she pulls back and shuts down. And what I do is like vomit and jump forward. And they're both, they're just both responses to us trying to gain awareness of what's happening in our body,
in our bodies,
which is so hard, because in the moment I'm thinking, this is how I feel in my body. And then I'm like, well, how would I feel if I were her or him? And then how would I want somebody to respond? And then, and then sometimes I'm like, well, shit, I just messed that up. And it sounded terrible.
I just played this all out in my head, and that is not what happened at all.
But the intention is good. We just have to work on the awareness.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it's always the biggest part of everything. I think once you're aware, then you can kind of just move forward. I think me even talking about me shutting down, I think it kind of happened the other day where I was just like, where do I lean into when I'm trying to please, like not please, but like I was in a group setting and I was just like, okay, how am I going to move through this? Someone was going through something. This is happening over here. Everyone having their certain needs. But then I was like, okay, what are my needs right now? No one's really asking me of anything, like, or needing anything from me. Like, what are mine? Do I want to stay out longer? Do I want to do this? Yeah. So it's interesting. I think I'm just going to leave it at that. It's interesting.
I know.
But I think that's me, like, for my friends and people watching this, that's kind of what's happening in my head when I'm sitting back and just watching and observing.
Yeah. That's interesting. I always like to see the duality here of our
Yes.
differences, lots of similarities, but
We're blonde.
we're both blonde, yes, and we're both wearing gray sweatsuits.
Yes. These are in the part of the picture. These are part of the pictures.
Stay tuned.
They're so cute. Well, let's take it over to, okay, so we talked a little bit on friends and those dynamics. Let's talk it into, dating a therapist and what's that like?
Yeah, yeah.
I will say, I feel like Maddie and I talked about this, that I can kind of talk a little bit more, but please
Yes.
chime in. Dating in my kind of therapist role, it was only like a few years of it because it's just kind of freshly into my career before this serious relationship I'm in. But I feel like it was kind of like a joke. I know that sounds crazy, but I used it kind of as like, yeah, like I'm your therapist, but no pillow talk. Like,
Yeah.
like leave it there. I'm not your therapist. Like if on the dating profile, like I think I used something super witty and I was just like, no, I can't therapize you or solve your problems for why you're on this.
Oh my gosh.
For why you're on this dating app. But no, it was like an interesting kind of thing to maneuver because I will say like my emotional intelligence going into things, it was very like, I think I was harsher.
Mm.
I think it was like if I was seeing things, I immediately I put people into boxes
Yep.
because these weren't my friends. These were like one-off things, like go on a date and I'd be like, okay, you're here, like
Yep.
this is you. And that was definitely jumping to conclusions, but that was also like me fresh out of
Grad school.
fresh out of grad school, but fresh out of 2 bad relationships too. Like, so both, like fresh out of grad school, starting my career.
So jaded.
Yeah, a little jaded, but I think it was just very much so, I hate to say it, but I was like, oh, nope, red flags.
Red flags.
Red flags.
Red flags.
For therapists, red flags.
Yeah.
Which, there we go. I love that I just keep giving us hints of what our next episodes
We just
are
needed
going to
a
be.
name for it.
Yeah. Maybe that therapist's version of red flags.
Yes.
But yeah, so I definitely was more, I think, I don't want to say picky because it's good to be picky, but I think I was more judgmental than I usually am. I was not as gray area.
Well, and that goes back to what you were talking about earlier, just about awareness comes later in this job. I feel like the awareness when we're fresh babies out of college and out of grad school, we don't have the same awareness that, we develop later on like we do now. And so, yeah, it's just about gaining the awareness so we don't put people in boxes or, like we wouldn't want to put ourselves in boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Or other people to put us in boxes. And so I think we can all be guilty of that in this field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it would just be interesting to like interacting and flowing. And you kind of think about it like when you're dating, you're kind of interviewing. And so that's what would like the flow would be. And I'm actually going to talk about too, just to kind of segue, because that's really all I have. Like dating, I just was kind of more pickier and it was like an interview process. And I would ask very strategic questions to kind of get certain answers and not like the ones of like, tell me about your trauma, but or like, how's your relationship with your mom? Like, no, it was very, I would talk about a situation and I would kind of make up situations and see how they responded to it, or if they were just agreeing with me to agree with me, or what were their nervous tics. Like it was very it was very much a game for me, I think, at that point. But to segue into being in a relationship, it kind of happened with my partner now whenever we first started dating, but it was just so funny because we both kind of were at this like standoff. I judged him right when I walked into the room. I was like, here we go again. Here's one of those.
Yep.
It's just
one of those.
One of those. I'm not even going to go into too descriptive, but
you'll have to tell him on the side.
Yeah, no, he knows. He's literally hearing it back because it was so bad at first.
Yeah.
I had already judged him, and I think he had kind of already judged me too because I was a little late. But again, I was a little late, and I definitely told you I was going to be late. I know you're listening.
Supportive.
So we had already kind of off-put each other. And we're sitting there and it is so platonic. It is so like I'm asking questions and he's just answering it exactly the way I thought he was going to. And I was like, yep, this is never seeing this guy again. And it's just funny because the next thing we do, like we're leaving and he's like, you want to go one more spot? And I think just the way he even asked it, like it was just kind of you want to try again?
Oh,
like type of
I
vibe.
love
And I
that.
was like, yeah, sure. I was like, oh. And then it was like night and day because it stripped off the judgy therapist girl.
I love
It stripped
that.
that off and I just became like
A human.
completely vulnerable, completely nervous now and on this date, which I hadn't been nervous for a date. I was in the realm of putting on a badass dress and just going out and just being like, I'm happy to be alive.
Wow.
You're in my presence. You're welcome. That was how that's how I kind of got. And it was nice to kind of get to this point of like, wow, this person gives me butterflies. Wow, this person, like, yeah.
Isn't that so interesting how we can use this like therapist part as protection?
Yeah.
I get like really, that's exactly what it just sounded like.
Yeah.
Is we use it to protect ourselves.
Oh yeah, I had this, and this is not true because I didn't know any of the, and if any of the guys are watching, I didn't know you and I shouldn't have judged. It was more of just like where I was at. And like you talked the protector role of like, I was making sure that I was safe.
Yeah.
And it was going to take a very special person to take me out of that. And it did.
So I can relate. And the reason I didn't talk as much on dating as Taylor is because I was married already when I started going to grad school. So I've been married to my husband for almost 7 years now. And so he kind of, if you know, I know he's listening to this too. Hey, love you. But he's kind of watched the, what is the word when you,
the evolving or
yes,
the evolution.
How did you know?
It was the hand motion.
We're really
if you didn't
close.
know,
he got to watch me evolve into the therapist role. I didn't, but I never dated while kind of in this position. Right. I mean, I was like a psychology major, and whenever I said that, people were like, "Are you analyzing me?"
It's a joke. It was like a running joke.
And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Not yet. But yeah, so I don't have too much experience on that. But, you know, we were talking earlier and it's like marriage, partner, boyfriend, whatever, husband. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Of kind of being married or dating a therapist, which I guess we can kind of
segue into. Yeah. I think to that point of just being in a relationship with a therapist there is like a lot of work. I think I reflected on it in boundaries. I like to talk about heavy stuff.
Me too.
I'm not a surface level girly. Like I might ask you what the weather is, but I have an app for that. Like,
yeah,
no, probably not. But I am going to be like, hey, like, how are you feeling today? And I don't want good,
Oh, I hate that word.
And my partner literally every time is just telling me how work, is going, if there's stress there. So it's like, I know what to expect coming home. But then, the same thing for me. I will say, I think we talked about this too. My partner is likes to kind of joke about kind of the stuff I do, but it is because of, and he's reflected on it. He's like, I don't know how to respond to that sometimes. And it's because it's like heavy and I just want to like put a smile on your face, or I just want to, make it lighthearted. And I told him, I was like, I actually, like, I get that a lot. Like, I think I've done that too. But there is times where I'm saying, hey, it actually sometimes makes me feel like I can't like cry about it, or I can't, get upset about it. And that's a lot of my life. So whenever we had that talk, it was like really good. 'Cause I think he's like, what do you need? Do you need a bath? Do you need like, what do you need? Do you need to de-stress after a hard session? Instead of just, throwing jokes about, things. And so it was a good balance to have those kind of conversations, and also like on our own relationship and our own dynamics of, because like we're still like we're going on 2 years.
Yeah.
So y'all are in a whole other like level, but I'm sure y'all went through this of hitting those kind of, first thing barriers of, trust and building trust, taking steps forward, taking steps back. navigating new chapters, you have to keep talking.
Yes.
Because we talked about it yesterday, new stimuli comes in, new things, new jobs, new people, like new interactions. You have to talk about all those things on a regular basis to get, and it's not saying like, hey, we need to be on the same page, but I just need to know where you're at and like what your levels are. So I will say just continuing that, and it's going to be ongoing.
Well, yeah. And our, communication has evolved as well, me and my husband, because, at first, it was very, I don't want to say, oh yeah, okay. It was not good. I was like trying to think of a word for that. No, we had terrible communication. Because we get into the butterflies and rainbows and honeymoon phase of we're in love and we're happy, and then
relatable
stuff gets real.
Right. Shit hits the fan.
Shit hits the fan. Stuff gets real. We had our son pretty young at like what, maybe. I mean, I think it's young because it felt young. I was like 24 when I had my son. And that is when things started getting really difficult to navigate and communicate. And that is also when I entered into grad school. So enter in therapy, therapist Maddie. That's when she came into the room, and my husband started learning all about her and all of her different ways and hats, and that was wild to navigate being a first-time mom, being a wife, and then also now being a therapist was wild. But circle back to the point of communication. People want to shut down in moments like that. People want to pull back. People want to just not, because it's hard, right, to communicate. But my encouragement to you is like lean into it, because communication is everything in relationships.
Yeah, and learning how each other communicates.
Yes,
I will say like, and we will absolutely have an episode on love languages, but knowing your partner's love language, knowing your person's communication styles. And then also knowing like what activates them, like it's just being so communicative about terms. Like I know that my partner's like starts to use my terms,
right?
Starts to kind of say things that I say, to reflect like how he's feeling and where he's at, and he talks about. I think he talked about I just need to decompress the other day. I was like,
Ooh.
You go decompress.
Yeah.
You go Glen Coco.
I love that. Yeah, I think something you said earlier about the jokes, right?
Oh yeah.
I know I'm kind of going backwards.
The dark humor.
Dark humor.
It's like I use it too.
Yes, but I totally related to what you were saying and how sometimes it feels, like, well, I need someone to help me with this, or like talk about this, not in depth, but just to kind of like, it's almost like I'm telling you where I'm at, right? Yeah. Like this is where I'm at. This is what I kind of dealt with today. And sometimes a joke doesn't fix that.
Yeah.
But my husband has gotten really good where I don't even have to say it anymore. If he knows I've had a hard day, and I'm coming home from work, if he's home before I am, he'll always like have a little bath ready for me, which has been great because I'm like, okay, finally we've gotten to a place where you get it now.
Yeah.
The joke doesn't fix it, but this helps.
Yeah. He's like, I might not have the words.
Yes.
And I think that's also to say, I was like, it's not fair for me to expect him to. Like, it's not fair for me to put that, because that would be like me knowing about freaking the stock markets.
Oh,
and
God,
I was like, I don't know
no.
shit about the stock markets.
Yeah.
I just know if it's like a green day or a red day. Like, I'm like, oh shit. So
I don't even know that much. But
no, I look every once in a while just to make sure he's coming home okay.
Oh my gosh. But I think that's a great point of there's two sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not, just because we're therapists doesn't mean that we don't stink sometimes. We don't have our stank.
Oh, yeah. I know. Just because I'm a therapist does not mean I'm not unhinged. Sometimes.
And doesn't mean that I'm not a human being.
Yes.
And I think I'm speaking to myself right now.
Oh, yeah. We're pounding this.
Stop it right now.
I'm a human.
You are a human. Stop having unrealistic expectations that literally nobody else has for you.
No one else.
Well, maybe. I don't know if you guys, if people think that way about
you
therapists.
You might.
But don't have expectations on other people, because it's a hard thing to live up to.
Yeah. I think it's there's certain things I think with my patients, like going on expectations,
Right.
where I do clarify, and I love it in my like intake. It's like, what are you hoping to gain from coming to therapy?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if they're like, for you to fix my problems or for you to fix it, I'm just like, oh, well, I was like, I can help you
Fix it.
fix it. I always use my flashlight analogy. I can be the flashlight in your hand. Let's go looking and see what's going on.
Yeah.
But I don't have the magic tools. I'm not in your brain and your heart space every day.
Well, and also I am not that powerful.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
Like
oh,
I am not
that,
powerful
and I don't
enough to
even
do
think that would
that.
be cool. Like, I would be like, I always have wondered about that superpower of if I would want to know what everyone was thinking all the
Oh
time. And I was
God.
like, no,
No,
absolutely fucking
never.
not. I'm like, after getting into this career, I'm like, I don't want to know what's going on in
No.
your brain.
No. Sometimes I don't even want to know what's going on in my brain.
Disassociation.
Yes,
And
exactly.
we do that too. But I guess going into a little bit deeper, I know that you obviously going through your relationships, we'll hear a lot more from our partners because we have a Q&A a little later. So
Yeah.
don't worry, we're circling back to those guys. But I did want to touch in, I know that we talked about, I had a dating life kind of more in this realm, but you have kids.
Right.
Like, so how has that kind of been, being a therapist mom?
Whew. That as a trauma therapist, somebody who specializes in like went to school and, really looked at trauma, and then of course, I know we both work with trauma, but just like learning so much about trauma, immediately having a child, I was like, what have I done? What did I do?
Yes.
What have I done to them? What are they going to say 20 years from now? How did I traumatize them?
Yep.
That goes through my mind almost in every interaction I have with them, which has been really hard, especially because I sit with so many women who are telling me about ways in which their parents either knowingly or unknowingly traumatize their children. And that terrified me. But I will say, going through that, I've had to learn that no matter what I do, they will be traumatized in some way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use that
crisis.
Yeah, I'm going to use that word lightly. I'm being a hypocrite. I'm not supposed to use that word like that, but
no, well, they'll go through like they'll have their own versions of trauma.
Right.
That there'll be things out of your control.
Right, and there'll be things that I have done and messages they've received in a way I did not intend, and the biggest piece of advice, not that my kids are old yet, they're pretty young, they're toddlers, and I've got a almost 6-year-old tomorrow, and he's gonna be 6.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. I forgot where I was going with that. What was I saying?
No, we were talking about like they're going to go through crisis. There's going to be things that you can't control, like, and I'm sure moms just relate to that in general.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was saying advice. The advice I want to give is just being able to acknowledge them when they are older, acknowledge whatever they have to say or share with you.
Opening up the space for that.
Not shutting it down or not saying like, well, no, that's wrong. This is what happened. It's like, no, that's your version. That's your reality. And I accept that. Right.
Yeah.
Like I accept that that's your reality. And I think that there's going to be one day a level to being able to understand, right? Like if my son is sitting there saying like, you were never around and that makes me feel unloved. Well, I would probably like, that's like the fear in my head, by the way, everyone.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I would respond by saying like, hey, like, I totally understand why you feel that way. Would you mind if I shared like what was really going on during that time? I'm a full-time employee trying to like pay the bills, get my degree, all these things that I think that's, again, we talked about communication earlier. That's the healing part of all of this. Nobody has to be right or wrong.
Yeah. There's two sides to the story, but there's like different perspectives, but you can always acknowledge the way someone feels.
But just a little insight into that is where I'm at. My son's only 6 and I'm already thinking 20 years down the line where I've gone wrong. And I think that plays into the expectation portion of what we place on ourselves. Like I'm still a mom.
I'd be lying if I said I hadn't thought about it. I don't even have kids, but just
scary.
the idea of like what it would be like, and not wanting to F them up, and just, we work with so much generational trauma, and you talk about having patience with that kind of, background. And I work with kids too, and I hear them about their parents and just seeing like the levels of disconnect that can happen. And not ever wanting that. And so I think like as long as there is just communication, because there is going to be disconnect, and just not
Right.
putting that expectation on yourself to be this 100% person. Because I could imagine, because we talk about levels, friends, relationships, there's something about when it comes to being a mom that you're supposed to be 100% there.
Ooh.
And that's not the case either.
Yeah.
I will say, as a daughter, I think I got to this realm of looking at my parents as the humans that they were. And there was something very healing in that for me,
Ooh.
of just saying, like, why did I expect, like, obviously my needs were, everything was like, I had, like I talk about having a beautiful childhood. Yes, there were some things that like hurt me along the way. There was things that, I wish I didn't go through. And I remember sitting down with like my mom and like telling her kind of XYZ, this happened, this. And it was probably the most freeing moment, because she was just like, I had no idea. And
Yeah.
it wasn't the I statements of like, I feel like I wasn't putting blame on her. I was
You
just
weren't
like, I was
persecuting.
just like, I just need you to know, because there was a point in time where I was walking with resentment.
Right.
And I was walking with this, and I was just like, I'm not walking with it anymore, because I look at you and I'm proud of you. Like, you've done what you can. Like, you are
Right.
who you are, and it is beautiful, and I love you. Like, so there is levels to, I think, that a child is going to need to do.
Yeah.
But as long as you foster, I think, that space of like,
You,
hey, I'm here,
yeah,
and
you can tell me.
yeah,
Yeah.
just honest and open, and yeah, I just segue. But I was like, as a daughter, I think that was like the best thing I could do to even kind of continue like having a more authentic relationship in my adulthood with my
Right.
parents. Was like, hey, now we're at this chapter, and
Well, and like going from the child's mind to an adult, I mean, there's
yeah,
going to be huge differences there. And
developmental. That's
right,
another thing
yeah, a
too.
whole nother thing. But no, I also appreciate that perspective, because yeah, I've done that with my own parents as well. But it's so hard to see it, like as a mom. It's so hard to realize or think about what that's going to be like when it does happen, because it will.
Yeah.
It absolutely will happen. And I think the biggest challenge for me has just been not putting that pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And then just like a quick, like funny, like side note would be like the other big area I worry about is like diagnosing my children.
Yeah.
Like when my husband will always have conversations like my son at school. I'm like, well, we need to make sure he's like socially engaging and,
Yeah.
and fostering the, and he's like, hey, Maddie, he's 6.
Let him be a kid.
Chill. So that's the other thing when we had the title, Stop Diagnosing Me Babe, or what was
Stop
it?
diagnosing me, Mom.
Yeah, that's what I think of. Like, Mom, stop it. So
I am not your DSM.
yeah, I'm your kid and I'm just a kid. So that's my 2 cents on children.
No, I think that's just great to kind of reflect on, because like I said, I have those thoughts too. But I think it could also just go to show, there's just room in every avenue, but there are areas we still put that expectation on ourselves and that come up. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you're talking about it, and
Thanks.
kind of can feel like,
Yeah, I did some work on that early in my career, but early career, it's
Yeah.
not even that long, but just kind of
words.
reflecting on how many different relationships we juggle.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just like, mom, daughter, boyfriend, girlfriend, sister, whatever. I mean, like as a therapist, how each relationship is
Yeah. Has its
looked
different
at.
hats.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look at all of them very, very differently.
Yeah.
And I think I move differently in them. And I think I have I have a lot more versions of myself. I know that sounds a little
No, it
split
doesn't.
personality, but
No,
it's
no.
fine. Different versions of myself with my partner.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I have like these different sides to myself. And then it's just the versions I can tap into if I feel more comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
you should feel good about this. I talk more when I'm comfortable. Like I definitely,
Nice.
obviously we talked about me kind of being the observer when I'm
Yeah.
like, is this safe space or safe space? Is this space safe?
Yeah.
So again, that goes back to that kind of like judgy dating Taylor, where it was just like, I was like, not safe, unsafe. I don't know I'm safe yet. So I came in already mistrusting. And so I think that just goes to show that I'm not like in that headspace anymore. And yeah, it's definitely freeing.
It's freeing, and it's also kind of want to give us a little pat on the back here and be like, you're doing a good job. You guys are doing great.
Checking on my shoulder,
Yeah,
friends.
yeah.
My people pleaser, my
Y'all are
bouncer.
doing the best you can.
Well, do you want to get into Q&A?
Yeah, this is the fun part.
This is the fun part. Yeah, so we'll do Q&A, and we asked a few of our partners, obviously, and our friends what it was kind of like dating us and being friends with us and just having, an overall relationship with us. So they're kind of cute questions, and then we'll wrap it up for today. But Maddie, I will go ahead and start if you want me to.
Go for it.
Okay. So we'll just go through our partners' questions first, and then we'll get into friends.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So let's start with number 1. When did you first realize I wasn't a normal, quote unquote, normal friend and partner? So my partner said, due to the level of your emotional astuteness. Oh my God.
That's a nice word.
Here you go. Here you go, babe. Astuteness. Did you like that?
Astuteness.
I'm just going to leave it at that, period. Thank you. Thank you so much, babe.
Oh, am I? Do I go now?
Go.
Okay.
You do one.
So my husband said, when we would have conversations on the same topic, and I felt like we were speaking 2 different languages. He said, "You look at things from an emotional perspective, whereas I looked at things from a logical perspective."
Oh,
yeah.
I feel like my partner can relate to that.
Yeah.
So good one. And then number 2, do you ever find yourself using therapy speak because of me? My partner said yes. I feel like I acknowledge trauma and trauma responses more.
I didn't read this one, so now I'm laughing.
What did he
Daniel
say?
said, I don't know what that means. But I do say gaslighting and trauma response almost every day, and it's quite horrifying.
Look, but both of ours didn't say trigger. They said trauma responses.
Well, I hate that word.
I
so
know. Well,
that makes sense.
good on you, mate.
You guys are funny.
I know. And then on a scale of 1 to please stop, how much do I overanalyze our conversations? Please stop. You're both overthinkers. Please don't do this anymore. This is very true. It doesn't help when we both get into this analysis paralysis. So it isn't just even therapy. We just are both overthinkers, and it cripples us.
And then you add therapy into the mix. My husband said, literally every conversation we have.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks. And then number 4, have you ever caught yourself thinking, don't therapize me right now? And then he said, no, not really. You do it so naturally.
Well, that's nicer.
Okay.
My husband said, every time I come to you with some sort of complaint wanting to vent, I think twice about it.
Smart man.
Yes.
Oh, that's so funny. Number 5, do you feel like you have to be more emotionally evolved around me? He said yes, because you don't think with logic, you think with your emotion more. So I have to try and get on that plane.
My husband said, I save all my emotional energy and IQ for you.
Emotional IQ, it's a thing. If you don't know about emotional intelligence, y'all are probably gaining a lot from listening to this podcast.
As are our partners.
Yes. I've definitely been boosting up his emotional intelligence, and he's been boosting up my financial growth.
Nice trade-off.
And then 6, what's one thing you'd wish I'd turn off? Wait, oh my gosh, words. What's one thing you wish I'd turn off from therapist mode when we're hanging out? Okay. So this one, he said, my detachment and my compartmentalization. So that makes sense. Because remember, I talked about I tend to shut down. So usually when I'm in that heightened level, or I'm feeling dysregulated or things like that, whether it's from work, whether I'm in therapist mode, and that's usually when I'm just kind of this listener and observer. But I do compartmentalize when stuff gets kind of hard, because I think I just do that in general.
My husband said, whenever I just want to vent, I wish you would turn those things off. But most of the time, I appreciate you calling me out on my bullshit, because Lord knows I never will. I appreciate the honesty there, babe.
Very nice. Very nice. Number 7, how has being close to a therapist changed the way you view your own emotions or relationships? He said, I'm more vocal about what I've been thinking and feeling now.
My husband said, before you and I began our relationship and you dove deep into your therapist's mindset, see, he saw me evolve into that. I was emotionally stunted, but now I feel a lot more in tune with my emotions. And as a man, it's very difficult to admit that our to admit that emotions are very important to the human interaction.
Oh,
Wow.
pop off.
Insightful.
And then number 8, do you feel safer being vulnerable with me or more cautious? Nick, sorry, I'll bleep that out.
No, I said, it's okay. I said Daniel.
He said he doesn't mind. Anyways, he said safer, period. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, that's what he said?
Yeah, just safer.
Okay.
Just straight up safer.
Wait, we're on number 8? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, I feel like I can be safe and vulnerable with you, but there are some instances where all I need is a hug and you hit me with a deep psychoanalyzation. I'm being called out here.
Clarifying questions.
Told you.
Do you need a hug or do you need me to fix it?
I know.
And then number 9, have I ever unintentionally made you feel like a client instead of a friend or partner? He said no. Oh, you got tired here, babe. You got tired.
Daniel said yes all the time. God.
Dang it. Number 10, what's one thing you think people misunderstand about dating or befriending a therapist? And he said the toll that it takes on your mental health, your own mental health.
Daniel said there is a depth of knowledge about the human condition that therapists have, the complete outlook and the way they interact. It's very difficult to understand sometimes and not take it personally or offensive.
Yeah.
I think it's the same way with doctors.
It's true.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like I feel cold and calculated, but I definitely feel like I could probably come off that way.
For sure.
And then 11, do you think I hold myself to an unrealistic standard emotionally because of my job? And he's just said yes, because people die in your career, period.
Truth.
Yep.
Truth. Yeah. My husband said without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, definitely. And that's facts.
Facts.
And then number 12, what have you learned about mental health just from being around me? Cute. That not everything is a disorder.
Wow, he's learned.
He's listening to the podcast.
My husband said being in sales, I never realized how many people are extremely damaged mentally or have a lot of unresolved issues. I have never encountered somebody that is not mentally ill in society except for Oh, that's sweet. I've never encountered somebody that is not mentally ill in society, to be quite frank, except my partner, because even though she is diagnosed with stuff, her issues, I think he did voice to text. So this is really confusing, but he said,
it's still the sentiment.
Basically, he said, because even if she is diagnosed with mental health stuff, she works on them and is conscious of them, which almost makes
it's like hopeful. Like it sounds like I have someone who goes through this stuff and this person has been working on it. You literally let it not shape you or define you.
Well, what I take from that is he sees people in his line of work that are unaware and hurt people with their hurtness. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Kind of like the opposite of or enabling or using their kind of weaponizing their disorders in a way too.
And next time, maybe just use the text instead of voice to text, but still appreciate the answers.
You're here. And then we have number 13. Do you ever feel like I try to fix things too much? And then he said, no, I think I'm more of a fixer than you.
God dang it.
Nice.
Daniel said yes in every aspect of my life.
It's me and the observer. I'm like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm the other way around. I'm like,
oh,
codependent. Let me fix you.
And then number 14, what's one moment you felt seen or misunderstood by me as a therapist / friend partner thingy? And then he said seen, because we have very similar family traumas. So that was actually one of our first few conversations whenever we were talking on heavy topics. We definitely related to a lot of kind of similar upbringings.
Daniel said, when I struggle with work or anxiety, you talk me down and make me feel understood and that I'm not crazy. Oh, that's sweet.
And then number 15, and then have you ever hesitated to share something with me because of my job? He said, no, I feel more encouraged to share stuff with you because of your job overall.
My husband said,
I love that you're going second because you're like, damn it.
Well, this is funny because it kind of touches on the dark humor that both of our men share.
I think mine was like, no, I'm not putting that in here.
He said, I have some extremely dark humor and I feel like I really shut that out when I'm around you because then you're just going to go into a deep dive of why that's just horrific. I do that. I do for sure do that.
You're like, I absolutely do that. Well, let's go into our friends. So those are all the questions. And thank you to our lovely significant others for participating in that. And I have a few of my friends that answered mine. So I'll go into my friends and then you can dive into yours. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to do the kind of same numbers. So my friend Fallon, shout out Fallon, these are yours. Do I ever try to fix things too much? She said, no, the opposite. I think you understand how complicated human beings are, so you do the opposite. A lot of my friends give me unsolicited advice. I have to beg you for advice sometimes. LOL.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's true. And then she also said, what's one moment that you felt seen or misunderstood by me as a therapist? Fallon said, I feel seen by you a lot. I think you just get me. I realized this very, very early in our friendship, even when I made an impulsive decision to go see a boy when I knew it would end badly. You know me and know I had to experience that or I wouldn't have let it go. Oh, I do remember that. I'm very big on like people need to make their own decisions.
For sure.
So I'm just like, it'll be what do you need? What do you want to do? What do you need to do? Number 15, have you ever hesitated to share something with me because of my job? LOL, sometimes when it comes to food stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Like if I want to go on a diet or some kind of food restriction, I get a little hesitant to share with you because you may overanalyze it. You know what? Fair. Because especially since I, specify it in eating disorders. And then my friend Maria Renee said, do you ever find yourself using therapy speak because of me? She said, not as my own words, but I do find myself quoting you a lot, wondering what would Taylor say? Oh my gosh. What would Taylor say or do or think about the situation I'm in? I like that. And then she also answered the question of, do you ever feel like I try to fix things too much? She said, not at all. Wish you would fix my problems more often, actually.
I love that.
And then this last one with hers, what's one moment I made you feel seen or misunderstood by me as a therapist or friend? She said, I hope this makes sense, but I think initially when we were still getting to know each other, my anxious attachment style would get in the way if we didn't see each other for long periods of time. But as more time passed, the more I learned that time apart could never define our friendship. Overall, because of this dynamic and healthy boundaries that were set, I had perhaps felt exposed at first, but in the way that I most likely needed. So I think I literally talked about the fact that I said like, hey, like just because, I don't have this, we're not able to. So it was one of those things where the first time, like I was able to kind of set that and hold that precedence. So thank you, Maria. And then lastly, my friend Brooke, these are funny. My friend Brooke, have I ever unintentionally made you feel like a client instead of a friend or partner? She just said yes, but you brought snacks, so I didn't mind.
Noted.
That's great. And then what's one thing you think people misunderstand about dating or befriending a therapist? Brooke said that you're always quote unquote on, but sometimes you just want to binge trash TV and disassociate like the rest of us with me. Very true.
I love those.
And then Brooke said, do you think I hold myself to unrealistic standards emotionally because of my job? She said, no, you heal others while knowing your own inner child is eating chips in the dark.
I love that.
Yep, I'm definitely always in tune with that girly.
Well,
thank you to my friends.
I dropped the ball and I thought we were, well, no, okay, that's an excuse. You said to send to both our friends and partners. And in my head, I was like, okay, I'll just send it to my husband. And then I didn't send it to my friends, but.
Because technically you're her friend and her partner.
Yes, he's my best friend too. But I did manage to, literally an hour ago, my friend Hillary came in.
Shout out Hill.
Hilly D. She answered some questions for me. Where are the questions? Do you have them?
Yeah.
What is 3, 4, and 5?
I'll read the question then. So
okay.
You need 3?
Yeah, what's 3?
3 is on a scale of 1 to please stop. How much do I overanalyze our conversations?
She said, I personally don't think you overanalyze conversations, but I enjoy analyzing things, so it's welcome here. I always want you to share that with me. And And no, I actually feel like I need to be less crazy because I don't want you to think I need you to put on your work hat. Sometimes I'm just venting, but I feel bad because I don't want you to feel burned out. Like I need some sort of therapy in the moment. So I don't always want to unload. Oh, I like when you unload.
I like it too.
Yeah, I'm like, please. And then what was 13?
13 is, do you ever feel like I try to, quote unquote, fix things too much?
She said, not at all. If anything, please fix more. Please fix me.
We've had two of our friends say
I
that.
love that. And then the last one she did was 15.
15 is, have you ever hesitated to share something with me because of my job?
She said, not at all. I love that about you. And I think it's so cool that you do what you do. I don't hide anything unless it's just repetitive, / I know what I need to do, but I'm not doing it type of thing. But I do that with everyone. Thanks, Hill. Love those.
Those are cute.
That was fun. I'm glad we
of fun.
did that. I wish I sent more out to my other friends.
We'll do it again. I feel like we just need to do these Q&As more for our, our followers and listeners and stuff. And so I appreciate everyone who, had fun with this. And at least you get to kind of see this perspective. We will be kind of diving into obviously more diagnoses and things like that along the next few episodes. I know that the next episode, though, drumroll, is going to be over red flags as a therapist. So our kind of quote unquote red flags, unhealthy behaviors, things like that we kind of see in relationships, but also in, approaching therapy and treatment and just kind of what those look like. Our warning signs are,
signs.
Yeah, I would definitely say that.
Well, and also maybe we could include in there a little bit of box putting in boxes with the whole red flag in general.
Yeah, and
idea.
Of course I'm using that like a red flag loosely.
No. How we're using it, I think, is just to be funny.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to stay with the times.
We're just trying to be trendy.
We're just going to be trendy.
No, but like the word in of itself.
Yes, and I think obviously to have that dichotomy, green flags as well. We're going to definitely talk on both because we can't just be negative Nancy's here.
Yeah, no, that's not us.
Sorry to all the Nancys. I actually think y'all might be neat.
Yes, I love that. This is great.
I try. I really do try. Both sides.
Devil's advocate.
Devil's advocate, always. But yeah, no. So that will be our next episode. And then we're going to get into a disorder series, which I'm very excited.
So excited.
We are actually going to be going into kind of my neck of the woods with eating disorders. So with the disorder series, we'll have about a few episodes. I want to say like 4 or 5, just specifically on ED. And we're going to have, special guests on the podcast that are going to come in and sit on the green couch with us and talk on these very important topics. But we will be diving into that disorder series after this. So I'm excited, you guys. I can't wait to, go on this journey a little bit further with you. And thank y'all for being absolutely freaking unhinged with us and listening what it's like to be friends and in a relationship with us.
So go get your best friend and watch some trash TV. Make sure if you are a therapist and you're going to hang out with one of your friends, you're bringing snacks.
Yeah. And, honor your inner child eating chips in the dark.
Chips in the dark.
Like, what?
I love that. Stay unhinged, you guys.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.